Welcome everybody. It looks like we have a forum and we have quite a few people in the room as well, which is exciting. Sometimes we find ourselves just talking to an empty room with lots of faces on the screen, so this is good. Thank you. Is there anyone joining us for the first time around the table? Want to do an introduction real quick?
I'm Carly Swanson. I'm the Director of Innovative Delivery at NCDOT with the Metro Turnpike Authority.
Okay.
And David Roy, Director of Innovative Finance with Turnpike and DOT.
Perfect. Next, I'll read the ethics statement. In accordance with the State Government Ethics Act, it is the duty of every board member to avoid conflicts of interest. Does any board member have any known conflict of interest with respect to any matters coming before the board today? If so, please identify the conflict and refrain from any participation in the particular matter involved. Does anyone have any conflict? Okay. Moving on, we have public comments. We do have three individuals to do public comments. I'll call your name. You can come up here in the middle so that we can all see and hear you. And you have 3 minutes. I'm kind of lenient on time. If you go over a little bit, I'm okay, but if you go extensively, I will cut you off. Okay? The first person is Maddie Rondo. Thank you. Thank you, Maddie. Thank you.
Where would you like me to stand so I can be heard on Zoom, seen?
Yes. Yes, right there. We have a camera and the speaker, the microphones are all in Zoom.
So my speech is 8 minutes. I will try to cut it short. But I would like to provide the whole thing for the minutes.
You can provide the whole thing.
Anyone's personal. Okay. Can everyone hear me online?
I see some head nods.
Just right there. Is that good?
This is Jen Hensley. I can hear perfectly fine.
Thank you. Dr. Hensley, sorry.
My name is Maddie Barrondo. I am a resident of Buncombe County and I work in Henderson County. I'm here today as a call for action for road safety with regard to the cycling accident on NC 251 in Madison County on July 1st, 2025 that killed 2 people and injured a third. Their names are Lenny Antonelli, Jake Hill, and Griffin Tishner. On Sunday, June 29th, my boyfriend, Lenny Antonelli, took me to a jeweler to pick out an engagement ring. 2 days later, on July 1st, I called Lenny's parents to tell them that Lenny was hit and killed by the driver of a dump truck on NC 251. I grieve the loss of my soulmate and the loss of the future we had planned, but we'll never get to share together. Today, I wear that ring. We picked out as a remembrance rather than a promise for the future. Today, I'm here to ask this group to protect their constituents from ever having to go through the terrible loss I'm going through right now. I want you to feel guilt, and I want you to feel shame, because 2 people died on July 1st, and it is your job to protect the safety of your constituents on the roads. I have some statistics in here that I'm going to skip over them.
You're welcome to take as much time as you need.
Okay, thank you. From 2015 to 2024, Asheville ranks first per capita in North Carolina for fatal bicycle crashes, according to Asheville Citizen Times. And I expect that ranking will continue in 2025. According to the French Broad MPO website, the NCDOT has a goal of reducing crashes by 50% by 2030. But I see that bicycle and pedestrian fatalities and serious injuries have consistently risen since 2013. Your staff has told me that you have not met your safety targets since their creation in 2018. Given this data, my response to you is this. You can't keep doing the same thing and expect a different outcome. So here's what I ask you to consider today. I have 5 things. Number 1, I cannot hold my representatives accountable if I do not know how they are voting. I would like the dissenting votes to be recorded in the minutes from now on. Number 2, where is NC 251 in the queue for design review, and can it be prioritized for review sooner given the recent violence? Number 3, where is Swannanoa River Road in the queue for design review, and can it be reprioritized for review given the recent violence? Number 4, I understand the interstate is important. Believe me, I drive it to work every day, and I want that construction completed. What I don't understand is why this group has continually voted to fund the interstate over local roads when the interstate is eligible for federal funding. That is an inefficient use of my money and taxpayer money. I expect better. Similarly, I consistently keep hearing that funding is a barrier to getting these projects done. That is not an acceptable excuse to say to my face. People are dying. You are in this position because you need to figure out solutions to keep people safe. Actions can be taken now to incentivize safer driving practices, requiring minimal funding, which my friend Adam will share his idea for this shortly. I can imagine a future where you can bike from Asheville to Hendersonville on 25 and then ride the Acosta Trail all the way to Brevard. I can imagine the future of the Hellbender Trail system, and I'm asking you to make that a reality. It may take 10 or more years to make this happen, but you need to allocate the funding now to make this a reality. And I know that reality will yield such benefits to Western North Carolina. I ride and run on the new Acosta Trail, and I see how many people have come outside to enjoy it. I see the businesses alongside the trail are booming. Not only would funding protected bike lanes and trails lead to improved safety, but it will also yield an improved economy. When you leave this meeting today, I want all of you to think about me. How my heart is shattered, and so unnecessarily. I want you to sit in that discomfort tonight. I want you to think if your spouse or your child dies, wouldn't you be in the same position as me, begging for change? Wouldn't you feel indescribable regret for delaying action? Except the difference is you have the power to vote and fund positive change for this community. Expect me to hold you accountable to that. I don't expect you to answer my requests and questions today. These are topics that you must discuss, but I do expect an answer. And you can expect me to return to these meetings to understand your progress. I am happy to provide a copy of my comments to be recorded in the minutes or for anyone's personal notes. Thank you for your time, and I would like to introduce Adam, who would like to propose a solution for bicycle safety.
Hi everyone, I'm Adam Smith. I was born and raised here in Asheville, beautiful Asheville, North Carolina, before moving out west to Colorado and California, where I spent 6.5 years as the program manager at the oldest youth cycling nonprofit in the country called Trips for Kids Bay Area. I moved back about 3 years ago, and I have just assumed the chair position at the Woodfin Parks and Community Enrichment Committee. I continue to serve on the Trips for Kids board in California and Roaring Fork Cycling board in Colorado. So I knew Lenny through my work connections at Liberty Bikes, and Maddie and I just happened to meet very serendipitously this past weekend. Lenny was an amazing young man, as Maddie knows better than anybody. He truly was a light, and if you met him, you would know why we're here today. It was a tragic loss for our whole community. So when he was lost, I knew we had to do something. And so at the next meeting of my Woodfin Parks and Greenways Committee, as it was formerly called, I raised the idea of creating bicycle safety zones along Riverside Drive in C251. And everyone kind of looked around, and nobody had heard of this idea before, but they all agreed that this was a great idea. And so the idea is simple. We all know what a school zone is or a construction zone is, correct? What does the sign say? Construction zone. Fines higher for speeding, next 15 miles or 10 miles, 1 mile in a construction zone, whatever it is. So that's the idea. A bicycle safety zone is the exact same thing. So here's what it looks like. This really sums it up right here. All it is a sign underneath the existing share the road sign. It says bicycle safety zone, fines higher for speeding, next 15 miles, for example. Imagine this on Riverside Drive. It's such a simple idea. So it raises awareness, it imposes a higher penalty, and it slows people down, hopefully. As we know, speeding is the leading cause of motor vehicle and cycling accidents. Here is the best part, folks. This is easy to implement and cheap. Now, how often do you get a proposal that's easy to implement and cheap? Well, this is one of those. All we need is signage, and we can put it up on the existing share the road sign, so the signs are already there, and we just add on the back end an additional fine for speeders. I believe also the fines and penalties should be higher for CDL drivers, just like the one that hit Lenny and Jake. So that's it. It's a simple idea. It's easy to implement. It's cost effective. And if it saves even one life, Maddie certainly knows, it's certainly worth it. Plus, we could be setting a precedent by implementing a new idea that makes our roads safer across the whole state. We must do more to protect our cyclists on our local roads, as the lack of bicycles infrastructure in this area is highly incompatible with the local popularity of the sport and ethos of our beautiful mountain community. So let's implement bicycle safety zones across North Carolina. Let's start right here in Western North Carolina. Let's start on NC 251 in honor of Lenny and Jake, so that this never happens again. Thank you all for your time, and let me know if you have any questions. If not, I'm happy to hand out a flyer with some information on this idea.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Christina Faust.
Oh, I was not intending to speak. I just signed in as a guest.
Okay.
Sorry.
Perfect.
If there's anyone online who would like to make comment, please drop a note in the chat and we'll unmute you.
Next is the approval of the agenda and consent agenda. It's quite lengthy last time for everyone to have a chance to read. So I'm asking for a motion to approve the agenda and the consent agenda. So moved. Second. Ainsley and McAllister. So we have first and a second, and time for a roll call.
Before we call the roll, Mayor, I wanted to confirm, because of the comments we heard today, but also because I've been asked for accountability on my own vote, I understood that staff had presented an option for us to more accurately reflect the vote count.
Yes.
Right now, reviewing previous minutes, the minutes just say whether or not an issue passed unanimously or if it passed. So I was wondering if we had some clarity on when that would take place or if it requires more support.
Me too.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm already
I'll-
prepared for today.
which I was gonna say that if everyone could bear with me, this is the first time I'm trying to navigate filling out who's saying what, as well as making sure I'm catching everybody who's actually here. So it's gonna just take a little time, but there will be a sheet in with the minutes going forward of what everyone voted for each question.
And just as a reminder, all TCC and board meetings are posted on the MPO's YouTube page. Please subscribe.
So let's give a lot of grace today, patience, and we'll get through it.
All right. So Asheville Kimroni?
Aye.
Asheville Sage Turner?
Aye.
DOT Division 14, Chuck McGrady?
Aye.
Buncombe County, Drew Ball? Buncombe County, Parker Sloan?
Aye.
Flat Rock, Emily Whitmire?
Aye.
Fletcher, Jim Flair?
Aye.
Haywood County, Brandon Roberts? Most of the names were on the side and others. Sorry, hold on one second.
Haywood County, Kevin Inslee.
Aye.
Henderson County, Jay Eagle.
Aye.
Henderson County, Sheila Franklin.
Aye.
Hendersonville, Jennifer Hensley.
Aye.
On Street, Tom Whitmer.
Aye.
Biltmore Forest, Drew Stevens.
Aye.
Waynesville, Anthony Sutton.
Aye.
Weaverville, Catherine Cordell.
Aye.
And Woodfin, Jim McAllister.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Perfect. So it's all ayes, no nays. We'll record those as well. Next is some business items. First is the Title VI plan adoption.
So give me just 1 second to get that pulled up for you. Okay, what you have before you is a request to approve the updated Title VI plan. This is something that we talked about at past meetings and has come before you in the form of an update before. You were presented the Title VI plan in your board packet, and this is just a brief summary of what that work entails. So Title VI states that no person in the United States
Drew, someone and I were
There we go.
in the room.
There you go.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
All right, so Title VI states that no person in the United States shall, on the ground of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or subjected to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. And Title VI is an umbrella of different legislation and orders, and under that is included the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which includes Title VI, and other titles including Title VII, the Uniform Relocation Assistance and Real Property Acquisition Policy Act of 1970, the Americans with Disabilities Act, the Age Act of 1975, Title IX of the Education Amendment of 1972, and 23 of the U.S. Code Section 324, non-discrimination on the basis of sex and transportation programs. Until recently, it also included 2 executive orders, one which included environmental justice and another which was language inclusion policy. Both of those executive orders have been revoked or rescinded due to recent executive orders. So who is a recipient? A recipient is an entity that receives financial assistance from a federal agency, and the regulations define the recipient as when federal financial assistance is extended directly or through another recipient, including any successor, assignee, or transferee thereof, but such term does not include the ultimate beneficiary. So that's just to say that French Broad River MPO is definitely a recipient of federal funding per the definition, and therefore the requirements to have a Title VI plan and adhere to Title VI apply to us. So locally, the history of the Title VI plan, it was initially adopted on June 23rd, 2011, and it was updated in June of 2019, was the last passage of an updated Title VI plan for the MPO. In terms of what's required of us, as a recipient of federal financial assistance, we're required to comply with Title VI requirements, which include review and approval of a Title VI plan every 3 years. And per Federal Code 23 CFR 450.336, the MPO must certify every 4 years that the Metropolitan Transportation Planning process is being carried out in accordance with all applicable requirements, including Title VI of the Civil Rights Act as amended in 1964. So what's being updated in this version? This is just a periodic review to update information that changes as a result of political, geographic, and demographic shifts in the environment. It removes references to the rescinded executive orders that I've already mentioned. It has new analysis of federal requirements pertaining to the Title VI plan, including identification of communities of concern, and that was some of the work that we engaged under our NCP. Analysis of low English proficiency communities, also known as LEP communities, and linguistic concentrations across the MPO planning area. An assessment and identification of community groups that can aid in reaching LEP communities, disadvantaged populations, and communities of concern. So as part of our update, I presented this to the board previously. We went through and we looked at census information to try to ascertain individuals that speak a language other than English and are considered low English proficiency, to make sure that we did not trigger any new requirements to provide additional language services. And so this is just a copy of that analysis. And what we found is, although there have been changes in the number of non-English speakers within the MPO region, ultimately there are no changes in our Title VI requirements and what we're required to provide as part of that LEP plan. And so our timeline to date, we first engaged the update to the Title VI plan in August of 2022. That includes analysis of census data. We ran into some issues with data availability relative to the LEP communities, which required us to do a more in-depth analysis internally, which we just reviewed a few slides ago. We also had analysis of communities of concern data from the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, review of pertinent executive orders and regulatory changes, and then the Title VI plan that you've been presented has undergone a compliance check with NCDOT's Office of Civil Rights. So with that, we would ask for your approval of the Title VI plan. This went before the TCC last week, and they recommended approval. Thank you.
I have a question. Yes. Question. Does When the Sky or MPO's language, when it comes to discrimination, does sex include sexual orientation?
That is still to be determined by the courts, I believe.
Well, in the town of Woodfin, we changed our charter. Every time the word sex is mentioned in an ordinance, it refers to sex, not only gender, but sexual orientation. How could we make that happen? Can we? If people are in favor of it.
That's a good question. But as you
We'd be relatively limited because of the new executive orders that have come out. That would constrain the language that we could use with respect and reference to Title VI. So it would need to be analyzed under that guise, and we really haven't taken the time to do that specifically. But I know that there have been a lot of changes in the use of the term sex and gender that are now promulgating from a federal level that we would have to look at that under.
Can I propose that we look at that?
I understand.
And bring it back to us whenever we have more guidance? I think there's quite a few of us in the room that would support that. We have a very diverse board, and I'm very grateful.
Well, Even in Woodfin, we were a little bit concerned that somebody at FEMA might find that buried, but so far we haven't heard a peep, and hope it stands.
The town of Waynesville also has information as well, and I know the town,
Asheville and Buncombe.
city of Asheville and Buncombe do as well.
I did have a question about limited English proficiency, LEP, because I'm looking at the executive summary. And it looks like we're working with a 4-factor analysis to ensure meaningful access to individuals with limited English proficiency. I know when I ride public transit that's funded by this body, it's really important for us to have translation into languages like Russian, Ukrainian, Spanish, because we're trying to make information available to our workforce and residents. So can you tell me a little bit about how this would affect our outcomes because of the funding, but also we want to make sure we're providing good information to people we serve?
In terms of outcomes, this didn't change any of our outcomes in terms of what the MPO is required to do. That's really what the analysis looks at, is greater than 5% or more than 1,000 people, whichever is fewer, speak a specific language, and they also experience lower English proficiency. And what we found is that was relevant for Spanish speakers, but that was really the only category that was checked in terms of language category. And we looked at the analysis specifically for Russian and Slavic speakers because that was a change in the census information that they no longer break it out by language category. And we were able to determine that we did not hit those thresholds even though we have been close in previous years.
Okay, thank you.
One other question for Daisy. Your demographic maps and charts are fantastic. Is there a way that I could see, I couldn't find Woodfin though. It's hard to do. Could you drill down on those if I requested it and show me Woodfin on some of those maps?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Thank you.
They do a really good job of whenever you get some details, you can really zoom into
Great.
almost, I can't say for the streets and at least distance.
Okay.
Any other questions? Not, I would entertain a motion to accept.
So moved.
Mr. McAllister, do we have a second?
Well, before I second, I thought we were bringing it back. Is the motion to bring it back?
No, we have to approve.
Yeah, we can look into the additional steps further and bring those back as an amendment, as an option to the board.
I second that.
Support that. Okay. First, second, with, to clarify, to approve this, but to bring back potential of an amendment to determine if the second can be broken out to include sexual orientation.
Is that more of a land of sky parent question, or any idea? I'll wait and see the outcome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll look into it.
This time should go quicker. All right, Asheville, Kim Rooney.
Aye.
Asheville, Sage Turner.
Aye.
DOT Division 14, Chuck McGrady.
You're on mute. Chuck, you're on mute if you're. Okay.
All right, Buncombe County, Drew Ball.
Aye.
Buncombe County, Parker Sloan.
Aye.
Flat Rock, Emily Whitmire.
Aye.
Fletcher, Jim Flair.
Aye.
Haywood County, Kevin Inslee.
Aye.
Henderson County, Jay Eagle.
Aye.
Henderson County, Sheila Franklin.
Aye.
Hendersonville, Jennifer Hensley.
Aye.
Montreat, Tom Whitmer.
Aye.
Town of Biltmore Forest, Drew Stevens.
Aye.
Waynesville, Anthony Sutton.
Aye.
Weaverville, Catherine Cordell.
Aye.
And Woodfin, Jim Callister.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
I have a point of order question.
Yes.
So, in an effort to help the staff that's making this new document for us, is my understanding that we're using Robert's rules, and according to the North Carolina School of Government, if someone were to not vote or to abstain without being removed officially by the board, that would count as a yes?
We were just talking about that, yes. it will be recorded in the totals, but it will be recorded on the spreadsheet that they did not vote.
Okay, it says not present or non-answer is how I wrote it.
But it automatically counts as a yes if they don't answer, if it was a close vote.
But if we were to have like a financial conflict of interest, the body would vote to recuse that member formally.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes. You were reading our minds because that's what we were talking about here. Next is the 5310 and JARC call for project.
Thank you. The 5310 JARC call for projects, we are asking for approval of opening up this call for projects and making this application process available effective today. The previous call for projects for these programs ran from January to March 2025. It was originally slated to run in the fall of 2024, but was delayed due to Hurricane Helene. Contracting is currently underway for that previous cycle. And under that previous cycle, we saw submission for 6 5310 projects and 1 JARC project. 1 JARC project, we funded 5 5310 projects and 1 JARC project out of this application. Overall, the call for project is largely identical to the last round. We made some changes to the scoring to reflect current executive orders and remove some language that is no longer allowable in the call for project. We request for information on previous system performance was added to the application at the request of the City of Asheville, so we're now asking all applicants to provide previous number of rides given on their system in the past fiscal year and the number of volunteers engaged in the past fiscal year, as well as adding some preparatory information relative to the use of indirect cost plans. Just an overview of 5310 funding. It's designed to improve mobility for seniors and individuals with disabilities. This year for our call for projects, we have $486,152 available for 5310 funds. There's a 10% admin fee that's going to the City of Asheville. That's $48,615, and after that admin fee is deducted, the remaining for the call for projects is $437,537. JARC. Let me catch up on my paper presentation, give me just a moment here. It's also known as the Job Access Reverse Commute Program, and it's designed to fund the development and maintenance of transportation services designed to transport welfare recipients and eligible low-income individuals to and from job activities related to their employment. And JARC is 10% set aside of our 5307 allocation, and this year that totals $420,732 that will be available during this call for projects. The timeline, we will be releasing the call for projects today. The application materials will go up on the website later today. Applications will be due January the 15th of 2026. On February the 4th, 2026, the prioritization subcommittee will review the applications and go over the scoring for those applications and recommend a slate of applications to the TCC for approval. The TCC will approve applications for recommendation to the board on February the 12th, 2026, and then it'll go to the MPO board for a vote on February 19th, 2026. And please excuse, I just noticed that I've got some errors on the dates, but those are all 2026 that we're talking about.
Just so you know, whenever you go to the 5310 call for project link, it has the correct dates, and I'll read those. October the 16th, 2025 is what we're voting on today. Open January 15th, 2026 is the 5310 JARC applications due to Prince George River MPO. February 4th, 2026 is the prioritization subcommittee's review. February 12th, 2026 is the TCC's approval. February 19th, 2026 is the MPO votes. And March 19th, 2026 is the MPO board approves the TIP amendments for 53. Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
I am so grateful to our staff at Asheville and Buncombe County for working together on transportation projects and funding solutions. I think the current makeup of the percentages has encouraged that kind of participation, and I think it's healthy for our community and for our region. Are there any proposed changes to the percentage split that are different in this year's proposal?
No, so this is not part of the split of 5307 funds. 5310 is its own pot of FTA funds with its own set of eligibilities, and rather than that being divvied out specifically to transit systems, there's required to be a call for projects. With the JARC funds, it is a subset of 5307 funds, and it has consistently been 10% of the region's allotment has been set aside for job access, reverse commute activities since, I believe, 2017 or 2018.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
No worries. And thank you for that. And in terms of next steps, the CPC has already recommended approval for the call of projects to the board. We're asking for the board to approve the call of project. Following that, we would release the application materials on the website, and we'll also send an email out to all previous applicants and individuals who have indicated that they are an interested party in call for projects. Just some important notes, the FTA has revised its circulars pertaining to the formula funding that we're discussing as of September 2024, so we're asking everybody to just make sure that they're familiarizing themselves with the new requirements. Applicants are encouraged to review the circulars prior to applying to ensure their program fits within the programmatic definitions. And then at the request of the City of Asheville, we have added that successful applicants, and we're asking the board to approve this as part of the call for projects, will be required to provide annual financial audit information along with findings pertinent to federal grants, just to make sure that there are no issues holding with any other federal grants and any active collective bargaining agreements. So with that, we would ask for your approval.
Any additional questions? With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Kim Rowdy, so moved.
Thank you. Second. And second by Parker.
Right. Asheville, Kim Rowdy.
Aye.
Asheville, Paige Turner.
Aye.
DOT Division 14, Chuck McGrady. Buncombe County, Drew Ball.
Aye.
Buncombe County, Parker Sloan.
Aye.
Flat Rock, Emily Whitmire.
Aye.
Fletcher, Jim Flair.
Aye.
Haywood County, Kevin Ensley. Henderson County, Jay Eagle.
Aye.
Henderson County, Sheila Franklin.
Aye.
Hendersonville, Jennifer Hensley.
Aye.
Montreat, Tom Whitmer.
Aye.
Biltmore Forest, Drew Stevens.
Aye.
Waynesville, Anthony Sutton.
Aye.
Weaverville, Catherine Cordell.
Aye.
And Woodson, Jim Callister.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
This is Chuck McGrady. Could you record me as I on this? I just couldn't get to the button quick enough.
Record me too, I had run out for a second. Kevin.
Thank you. Next is call for planning projects, and this is Tristan.
Yeah, so it is lots of calls in the fall. Call for planning projects, first of all, what are we talking about? We are talking about making funding available to our member governments or the region as a whole to support planning efforts around the region. This is something we once did fairly regularly, and then we got a big stockpile of plans that were going on. The stockpile has been reduced considerably over the last couple of years, and so we are looking to program funds for new special studies that would go into our FY 2027 Unified Planning Work Program, or the UPWIP, as it's referred to by our chair. Yep. In general, the goals, there's a myriad of them, but looking to projects that help to identify potential highway or bike ped projects or changes to transit systems, get more information on potential projects to avoid pitfalls later in project development. This is something we actually just had a chat about earlier. It is much easier and cheaper to find environmental issues, cost issues, and anything that might put your project into project purgatory for a while as a planning stage versus the design stage. Planners are generally less expensive right now than project designers. And to me, that helps set up projects for success later on. And I think that's something that, we get a lot of comments about. We have a lot of projects across all modes that have been programmed or funded for a number of years. And the design work that's required and sometimes the redesign work that's required can take a lot of time and cause a lot of delays. Also coordinate across disciplines. This is something that I think makes things like corridor studies enticing, is that sometimes it's not just a transportation issue. If you're looking to redo a corridor, how can you, look at transportation improvements that might spur economic development and land use changes that are in line with some of those transportation changes. But in general, provide financial assistance and or planning tools to support better planning in the region. This is, I believe, a not exhaustive list of some of the recently funded studies that we've had, ranging from a number of greenway studies and also the City of Asheville Transit Master Plan, a number of corridor studies, as well as bicycle and pedestrian plans that have been funded around the region. In terms of how it's funded, I thought this wasn't complicated, but minimally complicated. So, in general, MPO operations are funded with what's called PL funds and planning funds. We're also supplemented by STBG funds, or Surface Transportation Block Grant funds. Those are some of the same funds that are used for a lot of the greenway and sidewalk projects around the region. But we have an agreement with Federal Highways where we can set aside some of our STBG funds that come to this region and use those for planning purposes, i.e. use those for special studies. In terms of what's eligible, feasibility studies, again, I think that's something that's really, really important. So if your jurisdiction is thinking about applying for funds, especially federal funds, for a locally administered project, I highly, 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 cannot say it enough times, recommend doing a feasibility study. I've not been here terribly long. I've been here 11 years, but I've been here long enough to get projects on the front end that say, this is going to be the easiest project you'll ever see. We'll be cutting the ribbon in no time, and as a ribbon cutting years and years later, what a miracle. So I can't recommend that enough. Small area plans, transit master plans, corridor studies, economic impact studies, traffic studies, limited engineering design, up to 15% design, not including surveys, and multimodal studies are what's eligible. Who's eligible in general is the member government of the MPO. So if you're a local government, or if you're representing a local government on this board, your local government is eligible to apply. To note, there is a 20% local match. That is 20% of the total cost, not 20% of the federal funds. In general, no in-kind is eligible. The way the funding works is you spend down 100%, and then you get reimbursed for 80%. Just to be clear on that front. In terms of project evaluation, what we're looking at is, for our largest category, regional influence, looking for projects that impact multiple jurisdictions in the MPO. Project readiness, how close is the project implementation? Strategic alignment with some of the other planning processes at the MPO. Multimodal access, as well as growth management and how that fits in with the preferred growth scenarios that this board selected. in general, submissions will be scored using scaling, so we'll be ranking some of those submittals, and that will be used as a recommendation. The final decision is ultimately up to the MPO board and TCC in terms of what gets programmed. Also, I'll note that we recommend no more than 2 studies to be programmed in this call for projects. Whether it's a $400,000 project or a $50,000 project, these projects require MPO oversight, they require NCDOT oversight, they require to go through the procurement processes that are overseen by the MPO, DOT, and Federal Highway. And so, with capacity in mind, we'd love to not make a large stockpile again. So we are trying to look at 2 studies. But in general, we are looking at making $500,000 available as a target. The TCC did recommend opening the call for planning projects. And so for next steps, we are looking for board approval. We would put out materials for the call for projects later this month. October 30th is our target date. Applications would be due on the eve of New Year's Eve. And we would go through project selection in January and February, and then get those projects programmed into the FY 2027 Unified Planning Work Program, which is due in March. Are there any questions, comments, concerns? We are looking for approval from the board to open this call for projects. Any comments? Parker?
Just want to make sure I understand your use of the word project and study. You mean both interchangeably, so 2 studies of any type directly into one?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Any other questions?
Not all entertain a motion to approve the call for planning projects.
So moved.
Parker, and second?
Kimberly.
Second.
Okay. Asheville, Kimberly. Aye. Asheville, Sage Turner.
Aye.
DOT Division 14, Chuck McGrady.
Aye.
Buncombe County, Drew Ball.
Aye.
Buncombe County, Carter Sloan.
Aye.
Flat Rock, Emily Whitmire.
Aye.
Fletcher, Jim Flair.
Aye.
Haywood County, Kevin Ensley.
Aye.
Henderson County, Jay Egoff.
Aye.
Henderson County, Sheila Franklin.
Aye.
Hendersonville, Jennifer Hensley.
Aye.
Montreat, Tom Widmer.
Aye.
Biltmore Forest, Drew Stevens.
Aye.
Waynesville, Anthony Sutton.
Aye.
Weaverville, Catherine Cordell.
Aye.
And Woodfin, Jim McAllister.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Thank you. Next is the MPO committee work group follow-up.
Okay, this is a follow-up from an item that came to the MPO board in, I believe, June of earlier this year. Just as a reminder, the main thing that came before the board in June was a request from the Citizens Advisory Committee to dissolve the Citizens Advisory Committee. That's where this came from. However, just as a reminder, when we brought that to the board, I believe the general feedback to staff was there was a concern about limiting the number of opportunities for the public to be involved and different committees at the MPO. So we've had some follow-up discussions on that, and we've brought that back to the TCC for further discussion. They did make a recommendation that we'll talk about, but that's very good preface. But I guess more preface. In terms of the committees and work groups at the MPO, we do, I will point out, have a number of them. So the prioritization subcommittee that largely covers the prioritization process and makes recommendations to the TCC and board. I will note that over the years, we've put more and more on that subcommittee. That subcommittee recently has asked for us to put less and less, and to go back to just prioritization. Having a few 3-hour meetings, I might do that. The Citizens Advisory Committee was largely around public involvement. We also have a 5307 subrecipients work group that talks about transit issues in the region. We have a Held Under Trail work group, and we also have a locally administered project program, or LAB work group, which just generally provides updates and coordination on locally administered projects in the region. Again, the main thing kind of bringing this up was the Citizens Advisory Committee. A little bit of background on that, this group has been around since roughly 2012 at the MPO. It had its role changed in 2016 and bylaws applied, which relegated it to more of a niche role overseeing the public engagement activities at the MPO. However, since 2021, this is a group that has really struggled with attendance. Stacey, correct me if I'm wrong, it's been averaging about 2 attendees. We have gone through as staff 2 different iterations of soliciting applications for this group, getting applications, and still continuing to struggle with attendance. So we brought this up to the group in terms of what they would like to do with the committee's future, and they voted to dissolve themselves earlier this year. We brought this back in the summer, following the board meeting discussing this. They again voted to recommend dissolution of the group. There was a recommendation to replace it with a bike ped committee in its place. Just again to note, the board did not approve the dissolution at the June meeting. We've also been looking into what committees other MPOs have. You don't have to look through this ugly chart too much, but just to point out from the Citizens Advisory Committee's recommendation, one of the more common committees at similar sized MPOs throughout the state is a bike ped committee. We also talked about other steps with the prioritization subcommittee. One of the ideas was to add 3 seats for the public on the prioritization subcommittee. That was not recommended by the subcommittee at this time. We also discussed adding a bicycle and pedestrian committee. That was also not recommended by the subcommittee at this time. And to note, from a staff perspective, due to the number of committees we have, something we were talking about was consolidating the health vendor work group into a bike ped committee. Just make it part of what that committee discusses. In general, that's the update we'd like to provide you all. That is something that this board asked us to have follow-up conversations on. So we are looking for feedback and preferred next steps, but the TCC did recommend at its meeting to dissolve the Citizens Advisory Committee in accordance with its wishes, and to continue to consider public involvement opportunities and activities as needed.
Thank you. Yes, I think you're going to voice exactly what.
Oh,
Yes.
maybe. First I wanted to say thank you and acknowledge Sandy Bravo's work with the transit travel training. I've been very lucky to participate with residents of Gibbons Gerber Village, if y'all didn't already know, helping our aging adult neighbors understand how to use the bus. And it's been a partnership with AARP, and it's been very successful. We take residents on public transit to Fillmore Park and have pizza, and they love it. So it did make me wonder, because of some of the things that I have learned with that event, which work group or committee is looking at ADA compliance and making our community more accessible?
I would say in general right now, we do not have a committee that is tasked with that.
So I would suggest, because there's probably some overlap between walkability and accessibility, I know we're seeing that in the city's GAP plan, which is greenways, accessibility, and pedestrian infrastructure, that I could certainly support a move towards a bike pedestrian if it also included looking at ADA accessibility as well.
Yeah, and just to note, one thing that we have talked about in the past, unfortunately, I think it was discussed September of last year, was looking at a potential tool to help evaluate pedestrian facilities throughout the region and provide an ADA evaluation of what is up to regulations and what it's not, in order to help our local governments prioritize areas that are needed for improvement. Yes.
Generally speaking, who's on the Hellbender study committee? NGO folks from around the region, plus citizens from around the region?
Yeah, as a work group, it has an unofficial roster, and so it's primarily made up of the prioritization subcommittee members, as well as some of the stakeholders around the region that do a lot of work on bicycle and pedestrian projects and advocacy.
Well, in the back of my head, it sounds like the kind of group of folks that if we were to make a bike ped committee from scratch, that would be roughly the group of folks we might agree to put on such a committee. And so here's what that reason I was supporting your suggestion of turning that, evolving that into a broader group.
Don't you need two motions? It sounds like you're talking about
Yeah, we're gonna,
two similar but separate motions.
exactly.
Okay.
So, let's discuss dissolving the Citizen Advisory Committee first, and then we need to talk about adding, more involvement. They've come to us twice now, wanting us to dissolve this. What is the consensus of the group?
Anthony, you hate to dissolve a citizen, somebody giving input, but nobody's doing that.
Right.
It's basically costing staff time probably to try to organize this and get people there, and then nothing's really being accomplished. So it looks to me like they could use their efforts in a different way. That'd be my opinion.
Question. This is a citizens advisory group for us. Correct?
Right.
Okay. No wonder they haven't been here.
And they repeatedly asked to be dissolved by us.
Not by us. They by themselves, but
To dissolve them,
yes.
The lack of involvement has caused them to want to go ahead and
We
dissolve.
should have wanted to dissolve committees with that name, but, yeah.
That's the subpoint, that's the point, right?
Yeah.
I am all for citizens advice.
Yeah.
Citizens giving us advice, but I think we need to morph it into places that will actually give us feedback, right? Or people that are more interested in providing us feedback.
I would make a motion to allow the dissolving of Citizens Advisory Committee based on the non-participation and their request. May I offer a friendly amendment?
I'll second that so we can have discussion.
Yes.
I offer a friendly amendment to move to accept the recommendation of the Citizens Advisory Committee to dissolve itself.
That way it's not sounding like we are.
I think it acknowledges hearing them, but also that we want engagement.
All right. To go back to the first person who made the amendment to see if you accept, or you accept.
That's fine. That makes her happy. That's fine with me.
And Kevin?
Yeah, it's fine.
Perfect. So roll call.
And just to be clear, this is just roll call for the dissolution, not for the other.
Exactly. We're going to have a big discussion.
Okay. Asheville Kim Roney. Aye. Asheville Sage Turner.
Aye.
DOT Division 14 Chuck McGrady.
Aye.
Buncombe County Drew Ball.
Aye.
Buncombe County Parker Sloan.
Aye.
Flat Rock Emily Whitmire. Fletcher Jim Flair.
Aye.
Haywood County Kevin Ensley.
Aye.
Henderson County Jay Eagle.
Aye.
Henderson County Sheila Franklin.
Aye.
Hendersonville Jennifer Hensley.
Aye.
Montreat Tom Widmer. Biltmore Forest Drew Stevens.
Aye.
Waynesville Anthony Sutton.
Aye.
Weaverville Catherine Cordell.
Aye.
And Woodson Jim Callister.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Now maybe for a bigger discussion.
Hey, Nick, I'd just say along that lines, as an elected official, people tell us what the transportation needs are, and we bring them to this board. So in a way, I'm talking about a citizens board. We are a citizens board. We're elected officials, and people definitely let us know what transportation needs are needed and what needs to happen. So
Well, I know they
get
do
called
that.
all the time about that.
Yeah.
I have a different kind of question, and I think it's for staff. We just had that Elevate plan go through, and there was some community engagement around that. I was sending residents in the direction of the scheduled staff events. I also know that when I'm trying to engage neighbors on something, I go to where they are. I don't ask them to come to me. So I'm wondering if this could potentially free up time for more time for staff to go into community and work with the residents impacted.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, it certainly frees up staff capacity. I will say that in general, staff is open to any and all invitations to go and talk and present to community groups, whatever that is. And so there are a number of groups that as staff we all regularly go to, whether that's the Henderson Transportation Advisory Committee, Haywood Greenways, various CTABs throughout the region. So I would say it's not that isn't happening, but I would just reiterate that if there are specific instances where this board would like staff to be more present, we'd be more than happy to an extent. Don't give us 200.
Any other questions? When's the last time we created any sort of citizen committee? Wow.
It's been quite a while. And in all honesty, in around 2015, we had more committees than I believe any other MPO in the state. So we've been consolidating since then. That's not, again, I'd say we still have more committees than a lot of MPOs. But in general, I believe 2019 was when we started on the Hellbender Trail Plan, and we formed a work group around that plan.
I certainly agree with Commissioner Engley and everything he just said, that we're going to have committees, and we already have some committees. We should think about occasionally giving them stuff to do, giving them stuff to chew on, and if there's really changing things up, so give an opportunity for new folks to participate, because we don't have a lack of interested citizens. That's not a problem we have. So, yeah, I guess for that reason, let's go back to my earlier point. I can't think of a reason to not have some sort of group that occasionally thinks about bike ped safety, given how we talk about it in a variety overly formal ways, often in this committee. So we can kind of give some of those topics to them occasionally to discuss, to chew on, to give us advice and feedback on.
Yeah, if that is something the board would like us to pursue, I mean, there are a number of items that used to go to what was called the Complete Streets Work Group at the MPO. Just to note, every time we submit a project prioritization, staff is required to select a preferred cross-section for that project, and that includes complete streets treatment. I'll say I think we do a pretty good job, but that is something that should be coordinated with other people, especially people who know some of the roads a little better than we do.
Is there any opposition from the Hellbender participants to transitioning to a bike path?
We have not discussed that specifically with that work group. That is something we could bring up. But in general, I think there would be more tasks in general with bike paths than specifically with the Hellbender trail work group.
Can I make a suggestion that we approach them and see if they're willing to start transitioning to a bike ped, ADA compliant, all of that together, see if they would be willing to take that on.
we can do that, and if the board's okay with it, we can start scoping, kind of draft bylaws and a general mission, and scope for what this could look like.
So is action needed to support staff making this move?
I think just feedback at this point, that's a good point.
Another item that the prioritization committee voted down was adding 1 to 3 citizens to the prioritization subcommittee. How does everyone feel about that?
Who's on it now?
Oh, yes, lead on self. Elizabeth Key is the chair, myself, Catherine Cordell,
Archie Fertiller from the town of Black Mountain, Autumn Radcliffe from Henderson County, Jessica Morris from City of Asheville, and William Hyde from Buncombe County.
So elected officials and staff.
It's a subcommittee of 4 members from the TCC and 3 members from the MPO board.
I've noticed Catherine Cordell will be running off that board next month.
My term is over at the end of November. Somebody else will take my place, but that doesn't mean somebody takes my place on the NPO. So one of the things that I guess my biggest concern is, and I guess Jim can probably relate to this too, when you first start coming to these meetings, there's a whole lot to learn. So your first year, you're sitting here absorbing everything and learning about all the acronyms and what it all means, and the STIP and a TIP and a PIP. And from there you go. And then you'll start learning, you have to learn what you can and cannot spend your money on. And so sometimes you get really disappointed in, you come with this big ideal that I can recommend a project, and then you find out, you find out there is no money. So whoever takes over my place will go through a large learning curve, because I've been here about 3 years. The other thing that is, one of the reasons I think I was recommended to be on the NPO priority is because Matt Wexel from Madison County, I kind of represent our whole end of that, the Weaverville, Madison County area. So I am concerned about not having a representative from this end, that end of the county and the Madison County area being on the NPO. And so I had volunteered that I would do it, but I found out that you have to be an elected official to do it.
Still be on the prioritization board. It's not that your place on this board isn't going to be replaced. It will be, but again.
It will be.
But then this board that appoints to the prioritization subcommittee.
So, I would like to volunteer to be on it, but if a citizen can't be on it, then I can't be on it. If I was on another committee, and then one of the other committees said that a representative from that committee who is not an elected official could be on it, then I would volunteer to do that.
It is. The prioritization subcommittee is, we call it the nitty-gritty subcommittee. It's a lot of work, right? And there's not a lot of people that want to volunteer.
We've got one right here.
I know, that's
What do we need to do to accommodate
I wasn't
that?
in the last prioritization subcommittee, so I wasn't involved in the whole discussion of why they didn't want to add any.
Well, we
Take some liberties for you.
Could we change that for them?
Technically, yes, right? But again, I don't know the reasoning why they did not want to open it up. That might be a good place to start.
I think, just from memory, in large part, a lot of it was just maintaining it as a subcommittee. And I think a few folks noted that it is open to the public. In general, it doesn't vote very often. It's more of an open discussion that provides staff direction. So folks, correct me if I'm misremembering, but a lot of it was let's keep it a relatively smaller group to have some of those more subcommittee-ish discussions.
We had in-depth discussions. I mean, we really get into the discussion.
I think what I heard during that time, Tristan, was the committee was concerned about the fact that we vote. We vote about what we're going to send forward to the NPO as a recommendation. So I served on the Planning and Zoning Board in Weaverville for 8 years. We make recommendations. So even though we vote to make a recommendation, it's not really like a vote that says yes or no. So if the nitty-gritty subcommittee was more of a recommendation committee, then I think a citizen could be on that. But at this point, I think a lot of people were concerned if we actually vote on something that's brought to a board, then it shouldn't be a citizen. And I think that's why they kind of rejected me volunteering.
Maybe a attorney question, yeah.
Would it be easier to make that move if we ask the nitty-gritty to consider non-voting citizen members?
I believe that came up in the discussion as well.
But would they have to come back to us and ask to do that?
Yeah.
What, we could do that for them?
Yeah, I mean, I would say in general, the preference would be if there's a request to revisit the prioritization subcommittee bylaws, we can bring that back through the TCC board.
Do you need a motion to ask staff to do that, or can you do that anyway?
We can, if that is the will of this board, if that's the general feedback we're getting, we can take that and bring it back.
I'd like to make it, what Catherine is saying is critical. We've got to, it's taken her, I'm 2 years into this and I'm now starting to get it. And we're going to lose her, and I know all the candidates running for council in Weaverville, any of them would be fine, but if they're going to go through the same process. To lose her when she's willing to do something like that, to me, would just be absurd. So I hope staff will pursue it, and maybe next month that could be on our agenda.
We can run that back through the prioritization subcommittee as well.
Thank you. And if you need somebody to talk to them, I volunteer.
Thank you, Chuck. I'll let you volunteer.
Thank you, Catherine, for saying what you said.
Nitty-gritty search committee.
Yeah, that sounds like volunteer right there.
I just think
We will have to, just so you know, at the next meeting, we will have to fill that position.
you'll be here one more, you'll be at the next meeting, right? Okay, good.
I think for your interest, but I think it is a legal question for a citizen to be on a board that actually makes. That's what I think that, I don't think that is just a change of bylaws.
Right. In towns, we have residents like Adam Smith that chairs a board that makes recommendations to the council. I don't see the difference here.
But does it make recommendations, or does it actually?
It makes recommendations by vote.
Yeah.
Consensus recommendation. It doesn't have.
So it is an advisory board and academic sense.
And we have to vote, you'll see in our seconds that it comes through the prioritization vote as an agreement. And then we take that into consideration for our final vote.
Then never mind.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. That concludes the business portion, even though there may be business going forward. Next is informational items, and what everyone's waiting for is the I-40 managed lane information and discussion.
Right, and so just to introduce our speaker, David Roy, Director of Innovative Finance at the NC Turnpike Authority. And just as a reminder, this item came up last month at the NPO board meeting. In January of 2024, the NPO board voted to support a letter of support to NCDOT to study the potential express lanes or tolled lanes on I-40. That study recently came back, I believe in late August, early September of this year. It came before this board because we were voting on our submittals to the prioritization process. And so we had a number of options for this board to consider. And what this board voted on was to recommend widening I-40 from roughly exit 44 to exit 27, exit 44 in Buncombe to exit 27 in Haywood County, as a general traditional widening, and to continue to discuss the concept of express or toll lanes through no later than January. So right now, we have a placeholder in the prioritization process for a widening, and we have until our January board meeting to determine whether or not we want that to be a simple widening of I-40, which, as has been noted, has been submitted in the past, but has not scored well enough to be funded, or to make that project an express lane or toll lane project. So to give us more information, and just to note in terms of what staff is looking at in terms of process here, David's going to provide information at today's meeting, have discussions, and we can either bring this forward towards a vote at our November meeting, or if there's additional items of information that need to be provided to this board in order for you all to feel comfortable making a recommendation, we can look into that and aim for a January vote. But with that, David, please take it away.
Quick point of clarification. Everybody's aware that WLOS is here, and we're probably going to be on camera.
And are you going to drive Tristan? You want me to share mine?
Oh, yes, I can drive people. One second. Speaking of Spanish,
well, thank you again. Thanks for having us. My name is David Roy. I'm Director of Innovative Finance for the Turnpike Authority. Carly and I lead the Office of Innovative Finance and Delivery, and basically our role is to support MPOs and RPOs across the state that are interested in considering alternative delivery options to potentially help accelerate some of their critical infrastructure projects. So our role is to really support you in your decision making. So I'm actually going to turn it over to Carly to kick us off, talk a little bit about the history and background of the North Carolina Turnpike Authority and a little overview on express lanes, and then I'll walk through the financial feasibility analysis that we performed on the I-40 proposed express lanes.
Yeah, thank you, David. Good afternoon, members of the board. As mentioned, I'm Carly Swanson. I'm the Director of Innovative Delivery at NCDOT within the Turnpike Authority. So next, I'll just briefly walk through who the Turnpike Authority, who we are, also give an overview of the different types of toll facilities we have here in North Carolina, and then David will take it from there and cover the tolling analysis that was requested of us to look at. All right, first I'm just going to give a brief overview of the Turnpike Authority. Go to the next slide. So as mentioned earlier, David and I work within the Turnpike Authority. It's a business unit within NCDOT. The authority was established back in 2002 by the General Assembly as a way to speed implementation of needed transportation improvement projects. We often say that tolling in North Carolina is a tool in the toolbox. May not work in every community, but that's why the partnerships that we have with local planning organizations like you all are so important for us to determine, what may make sense for some of the critical projects that planning organizations are trying to move forward. We are funded by toll revenue, and it's important to note too, per state law, revenue may only be used on a project from which the revenue is derived or a contiguous toll facility. Also, per state law, toll projects in North Carolina must be approved by the local planning organization. So for our roles and responsibilities, really from initial study and analysis where we're at here today, from operating and maintaining projects that are open to traffic, the Turnpike Authority plays a role. And you see the 4 different areas that we cover here. David and I work within the Office of Innovative Finance and Delivery, so we're part of the project development team, working closely with local communities to lead the study, design and construction of Turnpike Authority projects. We also have a finance and reporting unit. They develop and execute plans of finance and the required reporting. We also have our toll operations group that maintain and operate the toll collection systems that we have across the state. And we also have the roadway maintenance program that funds and manages the fence-to-fence operations of the project facilities that are open to traffic. And this is a map that shows the different Turnpike Authority projects that we have across the state. When our office was established just almost 2 years ago, this map definitely did not have as many dots as it does today. That's why our office was established to work with planning organizations on different projects. You see that we have 3 projects that are currently open to traffic. Those are the dark green dots that you see on the map. So our first toll project was the Triangle Expressway. That's in Division 5 in the Triangle area. Our second project that opened to traffic was the Monroe Expressway. That was in 2018. That's in Division 10. Our first express lanes project in North Carolina is the I-77 North Express Lanes, which spans 26 miles between Divisions 10 and 12. You see the blue dots that we have on the map. Those are projects that we currently have under construction. So we have Complete 540 Phase 2, which completes the 540 loop in the Raleigh area. That broke ground last year in May. Then we have the I-45 South Express Lanes project in Division 10 that is anticipated to open late this year. You'll see too that we have the white dots that are on the map. Those are projects that are in the STIP under development. So we have the Mid-Currituck Bridge in Division 1. It's all the way in the top right corner, you'll see on the coast. Then we have the I-77 South Express Lanes, which is an extension of our first Express Lanes project in Division 10. The I-45 Express Lanes extension project, and then the US 74 Express Lanes, also in the Charlotte region. Then you see we have the light green dots that are on the map. Those are projects that are being explored, studied, like what we were talking about today with the I-40 Express Lanes. So we have several projects that are under consideration today. The Cape Fear Memorial Bridge in Division 3, the Wilmington area. Carolina Bays Parkway, which is down by the South Carolina line in Division 3. Capitol Boulevard in the Triangle area. I-540 Managed Shoulder Lanes in Division 5. The Marshville Bypass and I-45 East Express Lanes. And then the project that we are talking about today that's being considered, the I-40 Express Lanes in Division 13 and 14. And then next, I'm going to talk about NC Quick Pass. Some of you all may have heard of NC Quick Pass before. That is really our customer-facing toll collection program. So we have our NC Quick Pass program, and it can be used, the transponder can be used in 19 different states. You see on the map here, many of which are along the East Coast. We're also interoperable with Easy Pass, Peach Pass if you travel through Georgia, and then Sun Pass in Florida. As of June 2025, we have 2.5 million customers and then distributed 2 million transponders. So as we've seen the projects on the map open to traffic, we've seen more customers that sign up for NC Quick Pass transponders. And there are a couple of different ways to pay for those drivers who choose to use toll facilities in North Carolina. First is through the NC Quick Pass. That's the easiest way to pay. It's prepaid, no invoices in the mail. Most importantly for drivers, they save 50% on tolls in North Carolina. We obviously don't want customers to pay more than what they should, and so with an NC Quick Pass, you do receive that discount. We also have several different types of transponders depending on your travel needs. The second way is through bill by mail. What's important to note here, in North Carolina, we do not have toll booths. So all of our toll facilities are all electronic tolling. So drivers drive under a toll gantry, and if you don't have a transponder, cameras will take a picture of your license plate, and then an invoice is sent in the mail to the registered owner of the vehicle. And there are multiple payment options, but NC Quick Pass is the easiest way to pay, and you can save 50% on tolls.
The question is, what's a transponder and how does that work?
Yeah, so a transponder you see in the green box here to the left is the sticker. So it's this sticker that basically the toll gantry that I had mentioned earlier, it registers it, so you automatically, your tolls are deducted from your NC Quick Pass account.
You put it on your windshield?
Windshield, yep.
So if you have more than one vehicle, do you have to pay for each one, or is it all tied to the same account?
You can, do you want to go into it?
So we actually offer the sticker transponder for free, but you would have multiple transponders, one for each vehicle, but it can tie to one account.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And then next, I'm going to give a quick overview of the different types of toll facilities we have in North Carolina, including express lanes. So first, I'll start with expressways. As I noted earlier, we have 2 expressways projects open. Those are fully tolled facilities, so all users of the facility pay. I mentioned a toll gantry earlier, so you see the Black screen there, that's where drivers drive under the toll gantry, no stopping like a toll booth, and cameras will either capture your transponder on your windshield, or you'll receive a bill in the mail later on if you choose to pay by mail. So what's important here too, whether it's an expressway or an express lane, there's always a non-tolled option for drivers in North Carolina. So for expressways, drivers can choose to use an alternative route. And then toll rates are generally a fixed rate per mile based on the number of axles on the vehicle. And again, the different examples we have here in North Carolina are the Triangle Expressway and the Monroe Expressway. Next, the picture to the right are express lanes. So those are separate lanes where drivers, if they choose to use the lanes, can enter. You'll see here on the right, that is a picture of the I-77 North Express lanes, and you see the white truck there. That truck is driving in the express lanes. So there are delineators that separate the express lanes where drivers can choose to use those lanes for reliable travel time, or you can choose to use the general purpose lane, so the non-toll option. Dynamic pricing manages congestion and provides drivers with reliable travel times, and so the toll rates will vary based on the amount of traffic. There is a federal requirement that the express lanes must maintain the 45-mile-per-hour speed, and that's a way to ensure that no matter what's going on in the general purpose lanes, drivers that choose to use the express lanes will receive that reliable travel time. And we have two examples of express lanes currently in North Carolina. I-77 North is pictured here, and then the I-45 express lanes also in the Charlotte region.
What does it usually cost? Can you give an idea?
It depends on the amount of traffic, and if it's a peak period, obviously you're going to have more traffic in the general purpose lane. So you want to make sure that the federally required 45 miles per hour is met. So it's based on that factor. Every toll facility is also different, so it would be tough to say just a specific amount because the rates do fluctuate.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is, let's just say you're a commuter and you're going to use it occasionally. Are you talking about $1? Are you talking about $10? I mean, 50 cents?
About 25 and 50 at rush hour.
25 and 50 cents or dollars.
I'm thinking it's kind of like, and it's dynamic, so it depends on the amount of traffic. And you have times where it says your estimated time between this exit and this exit is this. You can pay 50 cents to use it for that period, and you can exit out of the express lane and not have to pay for the remainder.
Right.
To the next exit.
Yep. So, for example, I-77 North is a 26-mile express lane facility. You know, most of the users don't use it every day. They may use it a couple times a month. Average user uses it 3 times a month. But also, they may not use it the entire corridor. So it depends on, you know, the factors of how many toll gantries you're going under, but also what period of time is it? Is it a peak period? You may have more drivers in the express lanes, which would mean that the pricing may be a little higher. But if it's off-peak hours, then it may be lower. So it just kind of fluctuates depending on the amount of traffic in the corridor.
Okay. So if you were to drive an express lane from one end to the other for 26 miles, what would that be at peak time, roughly?
Again, I mean, every express lane is different. So certainly what you experience here in Raleigh is different than what you would see in the Charlotte area. Is different than what you would see probably in DC or the Atlanta area. And so I was going to show a map where the express lanes are located currently across the country.
I mean, I've gone to Atlanta, and I'm going to get one of these because I want to drive in the peach lane. You know, I want to get a peach pass, and I guess that covers that. But, you know, and it'll save so many cents. You know, it's usually 50 cents or something like that. It's usually not a big amount. Yeah. But I'm just wondering, that's kind of what y'all are looking at, because
I'm guessing it does give you the amount that it will cost you before you actually get in the express lane. So like in Atlanta, it will say it costs you 50 cents from Peachtree to Peachtree.
Yeah, and
I moved here from Austin, where they're everywhere, and quite frankly, you can be in rush hour, and to take the fast lane, it can be $25, $35 every time you use it, and that's why quite often there, it's hardly used because it's a have and a have not. This becomes a rich versus poor. I'm sorry, I know it's not comment time, but this is not.
So we're going to talk a little bit more about throughput optimization and revenue maximization models. To your point here.
And I think a couple of other things to note too, you know, I'm talking about how much it would cost to drive the trip. On I-77 North, there is HOV3. So if you're a driver that has 2 other passengers in the vehicle with you, you would travel in the lanes for free, so that trip would be free. Also, as mentioned earlier too, NC Quick Pass, 50% off. That's another way to say we encourage drivers to sign up for a transponder too. So those factors do play into that, you know, depending on the toll facility.
I do like that the high occupancy, you know, if you're commuting with more than 2 or more.
Yeah.
It's free.
On I-77 North 2 Transit, so the CAP system, they are able to use the express lanes for free as well. So for travelers who choose to use transit, that's another option. But for just a brief overview of express lanes, so they can add needed capacity, manage congestion today, but also support growth in the future. So again, no matter how congested the general purpose lanes are, you know, drivers do have that choice if they choose to use the express lanes to get to where they need to go on time. So the tolls that are charged for the express lanes help manage congestion and improve the flow. If you have drivers that choose to use the express lanes, it can help with the congestion in the general purpose lanes. Ultimately, providing that reliable travel option, though, and the revenue that's collected helps fund the project construction, operations, and maintenance costs. And as mentioned earlier, the signage, there's signage that before drivers were to enter the lanes, it shows what the rate is at that time. Additionally, so for I-77, our private partner on that project also lists the toll rates on their website as well. So that's another option for drivers to look at the toll rates. But tolls will vary throughout the day, as we talked about earlier, to ensure the express lanes provide reliable travel time and do not become overcrowded. And the dynamic pricing helps keep the traffic flowing, but additionally, toll policies on the project can ensure transparency, fairness, and operational integrity of the express lanes for the entire life of the project. And there was a recent survey that was conducted by HNTV, and just wanted to walk through some of the stats from that survey as it relates to public acceptance of express lanes in different areas of the country. The survey did show that 86% of the respondents were willing to pay tolls if they perceive value. 63% believe that you can no longer build your way out of congestion. 74% thought that using a privately managed lane is an option if it were available. 68% said they would be willing to pay $5 to save 15 minutes. And then 71% said they'd be willing to pay tolls to avoid congestion and have predictable travel times, even when the non-tolled alternatives are available. And then I also wanted to show this map. A third of states across the U.S. either have express lanes that are operational or are in the process of developing, constructing express lanes. So, you know, in North Carolina, we are seeing more areas look at tolling as a way to accelerate their projects, but additionally, different regions are seeing growth and want to provide another travel option for drivers, no matter how congested the general purpose lanes are on certain corridors. So these are just a number of different states that have express lanes projects on major corridors. I did want to note too, our neighboring state, Tennessee, is implementing their first express lanes project. It's an express lanes project, but they are calling them choice lanes, to just reiterate that express lanes are a choice for drivers. So this just shows a map of all the different projects that we have across the U.S. Where they've implemented express lanes. And then what we did is took a few of the projects that we just showed on the map here and turned them into case studies just to provide a little more information on how those express lanes projects are performing. The first one is the I-77 North Express Lanes project. As mentioned earlier, that was our state's first express lanes project and public-private partnership. It's a 26-mile long project that spans from North Mecklenburg County in Mooresville down to uptown Charlotte. Construction on that project began in November of 2015 and opened 4 years later in November 2019. On average, we're seeing 375,000 drivers use the express lanes each month. So we see those as 375,000 drivers that are not clogging up the general purpose lanes, which is helping manage congestion in that stretch of corridor. The average daily traffic in the corridor is 13% higher than pre-construction levels, but the average speed in the general purpose lanes has increased 30 to 40% during peak periods. And as mentioned earlier, customers use the express lanes an average of 3 times a month. So what we are seeing from the NC QuickPass side of things is drivers are using the express lanes when they need to get to where they need to go, whether it's a doctor's appointment, they're running late for work, or they need to pick up their child from daycare. They don't use it necessarily every day, but just when time matters most to them and they need to get to where they need to go with a reliable travel time. And then these are additional case studies from some of the projects we presented on the U.S. map earlier. So I-394, those express lanes in Minnesota, they converted HOV lanes to express lanes, and they saw the number of crashes on the corridor decrease by a little more than 5%. I-95 in Florida, those express lanes, in the first 6 years, fatal crashes on the corridor decreased nearly 16%. I-405 in Washington State, the corridor carries 23% more vehicles each weekday during peak periods pre-construction of that facility, but drivers are saving an average of 11 minutes using the express lanes. Speeds in the general purpose lanes have also improved by about 3 miles per hour. And then also on I-405, only 8% of the accounts use the facility more than 40 times during the year, but nearly half of the users use the facility once. So those are just a couple of the stats from the different projects that were on that U.S. map. And next, I'll turn it over to David to talk through the tolling analysis.
All right, thank you. So yeah, we'll talk through the tolling analysis that was requested by this board in January of 2024. Again, just as a reminder, both the Land of Sky and FBRMPO requested the department and the Turnpike Authority to study express lane model for the planned widening of 6054, which is I-40 heading west out of Asheville. Our first step was to conduct financial feasibility screening using a tool that was developed in-house with the department. That tool showed that while there were some questions that we needed to answer, there was a likelihood that this project could provide enough revenue to support not just operations of the project, but also at least some level of construction of the additional capacity. So at that point, we engaged Stantec, who was one of our traffic and revenue consultants within the Turnpike Authority, to conduct a level 1 or a sketch level traffic and revenue forecast. And we looked at 2 scenarios. The first scenario being 1 additional express lane in each direction. So the current or the widening project that has been previously proposed would take that section of I-40 from 4 lanes, 2 in each direction, to 6 lanes. So as opposed to just adding 1 additional general purpose lane, the first scenario looked at converting that to an express lane. We also looked at a scenario that would add 2 express lanes. So instead of a 6-lane facility, you would have an 8-lane facility, 2 general purpose lanes, and 2 express lanes. And in that scenario, we also looked at allowing commercial vehicles or trucks to utilize the lanes. And one of the reasons you might consider allowing trucks to utilize the lanes is because typically larger vehicles do pay a multiple of the toll rate paid by passenger vehicles. So for example, truck traffic or commercial traffic in the express lanes could make up low single-digit percentage of overall traffic in the lanes, 4 or 5%, but oftentimes that computes to 20 or 30% additional revenue generated from those lanes.
May I ask a question? I apologize. From logistic industry, trucking companies, do you get much pushback? Does the tolls cause an issue for them as far as their profitability?
Yes. Well, and again, remember, this is a choice that commercial vehicles can make, similar to a passenger vehicle. So what we see, very similar to passenger vehicles, commercial vehicles will use the lanes at times and not at other times, depending on their needs.
Still a choice.
Yeah, still a choice.
Still a choice. I have a question as well. With having the 18-wheeler or commercial, would that be separate from the general express lanes, so they'd have their own designated lane?
They wouldn't have a separate.
State 40, we have a truck lane now because the trucks can't, they slow down and going up the grade.
Yeah, typically you would not have a separate commercial vehicle or truck lane. There are instances where you may restrict those lanes, those commercial vehicles to the rightmost lane of the express lane, or something like that, or potentially even restrict their ingress and egress to only certain, certain locations within the corridor.
I would say that because there's a certain portion of this that is steep grade and trucks are now segregated to the far right 3 lanes so that passengers can go on the left hand.
And that's a great point, and actually we have a note on an upcoming slide about that. It is important to note that we looked at this from a traffic and revenue forecast, financial feasibility. Obviously, there would need to be significant additional study related to the technical feasibility and viability of allowing commercial vehicles to ensure that it's safe.
Would those studies also include data from other places that have done this over years to see if the business model worked out?
Talk about the large commercial vehicles.
There are a lot of them out there.
Yeah, so for just a couple of examples, I guess we could start with I-66. And we have looked at large commercial vehicles for our express lanes projects that are in development. For I-66, we've worked closely with Virginia DOT to ensure that they didn't see any safety issues. So for them, during peak periods, they charge 7 times the regular rate. For normal vehicles that utilize the lanes, and off-peak is 3.5 times.
Yeah, here's a picture from 66 East. $20.50, $57.75.
Yeah, as mentioned earlier, yeah, every facility is a little bit different in terms of rates.
And that is a choice that they are not required to use these.
Well, I understand, but it's a choice based on money. Who has it and who doesn't.
But how far was that, like?
It varies. It's different on every toll road.
But I can understand, I was in transportation for 25 years. And actually I was a supply chain manager. And so when a truck is bringing something to you and they can be in traffic for 45 minutes or an hour, or they might pay the extra $50 to get to you, there's a dock time. For example, if you don't hit your dock time, then you're going to have to wait 4 more hours to get somebody. It's like going to the doctor and not being there when your time comes.
Right.
And so it's worth a lot of companies to pay that extra $50 to get to that dock time.
I believe it's millions all.
But I think we'd want to see some data from industry trade groups, that sort of thing. I'm sure there's a lot of it available.
There is, I'm sure.
Yeah. That's what I was asking. Would it include that kind of data?
What specific around commercial vehicles and
experience of trucking companies in other areas? Do they use them or do they not? And what's the elasticity on it?
I mean, typically a traffic and revenue forecast wouldn't include specific data related to other facilities across the country.
Why wouldn't it? Why wouldn't it?
It's going to look at the specific corridor and the specific parameter, or the specific features of that corridor.
But that's going to be projections into the future, right? Wouldn't you want to look at other projects' experience to help you decide what's a legitimate forecast? For example, Catherine, don't you think UPS and FedEx have grids and policies about when their trucks can use them and when they can't?
That would be two good people to do a study with. Because I'm not sure, but probably they would share information with us as to, because, well, Tennessee doesn't have one yet, but that's where FedEx would be primary user. UPS is all over the country, so they ought to be able to share something, possibly.
I'm just saying, if they don't do it, we'll do it, because I know for a fact there are studies that have been done in other areas that have converted to toll roads. Some are more controversial than others, and there are a lot of data studies that have been done. There's some university studies that have been done on it. There are several universities that have traffic degree programs, and they've done it. So there's going to be a lot of data available for us to look at. Agree?
Okay. This will not be an uninformed decision.
Thank you. I didn't mean to hold you up.
Discussion. I have 2 questions back. I can wait till they're not done.
We have a few slides. We'll defer to how you want to handle the discussion.
If you're good on waiting, we'll do we want to.
Yeah, we can keep going. You want to move to the next slide?
So talked a little bit about it already, but obviously just a quick overview of the project that we're talking about here. This is a proposed project that would add approximately 16.5 miles of express lanes on I-40 from exit 44 to exit 27. This has previously been proposed as a general widening project for prioritization purposes. Previously, it was broken into 3 sections. You can see the breakdown there on the screen. For our purposes, obviously, we are looking at the corridor as a whole. Typically, you wouldn't break up an express lane project into smaller segments like this. So when we are referring to the express lane project, we are referring to all 16.5 miles. Next slide, please. So what the sketch level traffic and revenue forecast looked at, again, we looked at 2 scenarios, one adding 1 additional express lane in each direction, the second scenario adding 2 additional express lanes and with that allowing commercial vehicles to utilize the lanes. One thing we've talked about here a little bit already is the tolling methodology. This is certainly, and I think as you've heard, a hot topic, not just on this project, across the state and across the industry. There are different ways that you can approach a tolling methodology for an express lane project. I'll use the kind of egregious example of if you have 10 individuals willing to pay $1 to use the express lane, that would generate $10 in revenue, or you could potentially have one user willing to pay $20, and that would generate $20 of revenue. So there are certainly models across the country that lean or trend more towards a revenue maximization model. When we are doing our analysis, when we're pursuing particularly the I-45 project in the Charlotte region, we look to throughput optimization, and that is essentially setting or establishing a toll rate algorithm that encourages as much throughput as we can while still maintaining the operational efficiency of the lane. So there's a federal requirement that the lanes on average maintain at least a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit. So the algorithm would be set to ensure that the lanes could operate and meet that requirement, but not at levels that would generate excess revenue that might discourage utilization of the lanes. Interesting feature of this project, we looked at obviously seasonality, probably not surprising to you guys. Peak period, June through October, which is actually a little different than what we've seen in other regions, other express lanes, where you're looking more at the fall, the kind of back to school season being the peak period, obviously shoulder peak being the spring and fall heading into winter, and then off peak being winter months. So I don't know that that really means anything here, but I thought it was an interesting statistic and kind of something that's a little bit unique to this project. Next slide. Tolling analysis results, again, as we mentioned up front, what the tolling analysis did show was that under both scenarios, forecasted revenues would be sufficient to cover all operations and maintenance, as well as major maintenance or R&R costs of the facility or the project. And when we define project as fence to fence. So operations and main revenues could be used to cover not just the maintenance of the express lane facility itself, but also the adjacent general purpose lanes, as well as major maintenance or major rehab activities. Consistent with every project that the state of North Carolina has developed, and really almost every project across the country, particularly standalone projects like this one, toll revenues would not cover 100% of the upfront capital cost or construction cost of the project. There would be a gap, or would likely be a gap in funding that would need to still come from a traditional funding source, from the STIP or discretionary grants. You can see kind of the results of the analysis down there in the chart below. One express lane, and what we've done is taken our financial feasibility analysis and tried to boil that down to how this project would be reflected if it was submitted in prioritization P8.0. So obviously when we are doing our financial feasibility analysis, we're looking at year of expenditure costs, inflationary impacts, all of that. We tried to bring that back to today's dollars and how this would be reflected if it was submitted for prioritization. So project financing costs for the one express lane option estimated around $700 million. Bond capacity or financing capacity, toll revenue supported debt, could help reduce that by approximately $225 million, leaving a funding gap of about $475 million. And we'll talk about how that shows up in this debt. Similar story for the two express lane option, obviously. Increased capital costs there as a result of adding the additional lanes. Estimated project cost, $850 million in today's dollars. Higher financing capacity, of course, by adding the commercial vehicles, generating the additional revenue around $350 million. Very similar funding gap to the one express lane option. And of course, we are still in even an optimistic scenario if this were to move forward several years out from financing. So it is important to note that things like interest rate environments, cost estimates, those are likely to change. For example, we are in a relatively high interest rate environment by historical standards. 100 basis point reduction in interest rates or a 1 percentage point reduction in interest rates could have a material impact on the financing plan and potentially significantly reduce that funding gap. Next slide, please. So how does tolling potentially benefit or help a project as it moves through prioritization? So I promise we will not talk through the math in detail here, but you can see, or you can kind of see on the screen there, in blue, benefit cost is a significant component of prioritization, particularly at the statewide tier where a project like this is going to compete. So benefit cost analysis is 25% of overall project score at the statewide tier. So by reducing or potentially reducing that cost to the state, a project could score up, and we'll show you kind of an example of that here on the next slide. Thanks. So just to provide an example of that, to help give some context, this was a project that was scored in P7 as a bridge replacement project. That MPO did request that the project be scored both as a tolled facility as well as a non-tolled facility. So you can see below how that project scored both tolled and non-tolled. In the non-tolled scenario, obviously the total construction cost was what the cost to the state was scored as. At this point, it was $437 million, and it scored a little over 60 out of 100 as a statewide tier. As a toll project, because toll revenue could be used to support a good portion of construction costs, the cost to the state for this project was reduced to around $85 million. That did increase the score to just over 82 out of 100, and subsequently the tolled project was able to be prioritized and picked up in the STIP that was just adopted here a couple of months ago. For additional context, in P7, the lowest score to receive funding at the statewide tier was 81. The difference between, I believe, the 81 and the 60 as the non-tolled facility was over 200 projects and about $30 billion in construction costs. And I'm sure there's interest in kind of comparing that to how the I-40 project scored as a general widening in the most recent round of prioritization. You can see those scores there below. The A project scoring the highest of the three at a 78.35. The gap between how that project scored and the lowest project to be funded as part of P7, I believe it was 14 projects and about $1 billion in construction costs.
David, just a point of clarification, when you say projects being funded, you mean making the step, not necessarily being committed for construction.
That's correct. That's correct. It's at least being funded in the developmental tip or whatever it's called today.
Right. You said this project 605 for A scored the best, and what,
Yeah, I guess my main question from before was kind of what data. Still a little confused as to why we're talking about this now, so I think it's kind of where this is coming from. I think just a general widening idea, what demographic data or changes in the community or growth patterns DOT's seen kind of to push this forward. So maybe the answer is in that 78.35 score.
So yeah, I can address that. In general, this has been a priority. Widening I-40 has been a priority. In the past several rounds of prioritization, it's been submitted ever since P 5.0, so back in year 2018. And so all also, we look at travel time reliability on all of our interstate routes in the region. I-40 is going west from I-26. First of all, that's the primary freight corridor in our region. Most of the freight in our region goes up 26 from South Carolina and goes out I-40 through the gorge. There's a whole lot of freight, with that, reliability on that route has been dropping consistently. I think a lot of our representatives from Haywood County have heard that repeatedly. I experienced it. We tried to go to Crosby Campground one afternoon, and 3 hours later we got there, and my kids were all crying for dinner. But so in general, this isn't a route that we know reliability has been decreasing. We've been trying to get it funded for several years and several rounds. It has not been successful. So this idea of potentially having a toll project instead of a traditional widening is one that might, or is likely to make it, more likely to make it into the SIP, make it more likely to be funded and more likely to move forward. And so that is kind of what we're putting before the board is, here's an idea that if this is the priority, this might make it a little more realistic to get it programmed, but is this what this board would like to see?
I can follow up. That's great. That helps me a lot. Is the gorge itself like falling into the river again for like the 28th time since I was born? That must play into the reliability of that freight traffic, right? I mean, what assumptions are kind of going into this data around the future of the gorge?
I mean, this project in general doesn't address the gorge.
Sure.
I think, you know, we had a very brief discussion last month at the TCC of, you know, in general, it's hard enough to keep I-40 open through the gorge.
Yeah.
Adding more lanes, that we're going to need really good engineering. For now, it's primarily that section. And that section, regardless of the gorge, is still experiencing significant reliability issues. Part of that is likely due to an influx of commuters from Haywood County going to Buncombe as well as Henderson County, also vice versa. And yeah, there are a number of causes. And also, there's not great reliability. I mean, that's kind of the story of our region. If there's a crash or some kind of event on I-40, there's not another interstate for folks to go to. There's 1923, which is roughly a 2-lane road, to carry a lot of that Haywood Buncombe traffic.
As a person who commutes that every single day, at least 3 times a week, my travel time is doubled from 35 minutes to an hour. And going through Canton is not a viable solution.
I guess I don't know if the devil isn't on the gorge, but my first concern is that they get it real, you know, they fix it. My second concern is that DOT, after all these years, does something wild to create an alternative, you know, where and that diverts that.
That stuff has solved a lot of our issues. Over 35% of our
40% of our residents in Haywood County work in Buncombe County.
Yeah.
And so their people are using that.
Right. I got no matter for this stretch of highway.
Now that the mill has shut down, the paper mill, a lot of those workers are having to come to Asheville, into Buncombe County, to the plants over here to work. And they were great workers, and that's why, you know, they're sought after, and they have to go that distance. So it's very important to get that open and get it wide. And I can tell you, 2 years ago, I remember we were looking at data around the Newfound exit 33 area, and it was almost at capacity then. The numbers I remember was the capacity was 63,000, and it was at 56,000 cars a day, and that was 10 years ago. This really should have been done 10 years ago, this widening, if you will. And I don't like a toll. Let me tell you, I despise a toll. But if it'll get the road widened to where my kids, when they go to work in Asheville, don't have to wait to get back home at night. I mean, family time is worth a lot in the evenings, you know, to get back home. And when you're sitting in traffic, which a lot of times they do, it's just really, you know, demoralizing and it's hard on them and everything. And it's just hard on everybody. And while if we can get the road widened, I think it would also help the other lanes, because you will have people that aren't using the free lanes, if you will, to get there. And then if the traffic's light, you can stay in the free lanes. But it does give you an option to be able to go there, you know, to be able to get to where you're going within a reasonable amount of time. Because 1923, if you're using that becomes a clogged artery, if you will. And I've actually gone, you know, Leicester or Leicester Highway, however you pronounce it, and then I go with Newfound to get back home because that's a corridor and it's a 2-lane corridor. So, there's probably very few people know about that one, you know, and stuff, but, and I probably shouldn't be saying that, I should be broadcast out now, but anyway, sometimes you got to do what you got to do, you know, to get there. So, and and with the construction going on right now, it's really horrible. And I know it'll be horrible if we can get this done, but it just really needs to be done, I think, just for our community, if you will. And when we get to, and exit 27 is really the Clyde exit, you know, that's where we're talking about it going to. And at Clyde, you got 2374 and 64, I guess, all merging there, which goes into it goes to Tennessee through Bryson City and Andrews and Murphy. So that'll probably have to be widened not too much longer because that road's big and everything. But it just seems like this keeps being pushed off and pushed off. And the longer we wait, the more it's going to cost. I mean, if we'd have done this 10 years ago, it would have probably cost, I guarantee you it costs probably 40% of what it does now because of the way everything's gone up. And, but I mean, that's why we would like to do it. It's just a frustration for everyone that lives there. I can remember I could go from Haywood County to Asheville. The interstate was never clogged up or shut down, maybe once a year. And now it's like every other time I come here, I have to look at, thank goodness for, you know, Google Maps or whatever you use, that you can tell what's going on to where I can maybe scoot through Asheville or come, you know, across Newfound or something like that. Because without that, you'd just be sitting in traffic for hours.
Can we let our guests continue?
Yes, I have one thing to say to feed off of Commissioner Hensley is that not only will this widen the road, it will do lots of safety improvements for the other people that are not using it. We have an S-curve there that is just very dangerous, and during the feasibility, it would take that S-curve out, and that would allow us to do that sooner than later. But please proceed.
I thought you were done, I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Just a couple more slides, we can wrap up our presentation and continue the discussion. The one thing that was certainly of interest to the TCC, and you may have heard of, bonus allocation. This is a way that the General Assembly a number of years ago looked to encourage communities, regions to bring forward alternative funding solutions. And if a community does look to bring alternative funding to the table to help in construction of a project, in this case, obviously through tolling, it could be eligible for up to $100 million in bonus allocation that could be used for priority projects within the region. In both of our scenarios that we analyzed, in all likelihood, this project would qualify for the maximum $100 million in bonus allocation that the MPO, the RPO would be able to prioritize, again, within the counties that the express lanes serve.
Not only would it benefit Haywood County, it could potentially benefit someone else in the region as well. Yeah.
I think we got maybe one more real slide here. Yeah. So just understanding there's likely some interest in a potential schedule, and this really should come with a very large asterisk mark, but we did try to put something on paper that we feel is a kind of a realistic or reasonable schedule. Again, should this move forward as a proposed express lane project and through the prioritization process, we would expect if it's scored well enough to be funded in this round of prioritization and included in the STIP, that would of course happen in all likelihood in the fall of 2027. You could be looking at 2 or 3 years of project development and NEPA work that would need to happen before moving to construction, a 5 or 6 year construction period. So we're not talking about this, even if we start today, happening overnight. This is in all likelihood a project that at the earliest could be open in the mid 2030s. Now, one thing that tolling does bring to the table, a lot of projects that are being funded and scheduled in the STIP today are being scheduled with funds that begin in the early 2030s at this point. So funding for a new project that is scored may not begin construction until the early 2030s. Because we have alternative revenue, or this project could have alternative revenue, we could actually start construction well in advance potentially of any available STIP funding. So for example, the Complete 540 Phase 2 project that was referenced earlier, that project broke ground last year. The STIP funding isn't actually available until 2028, but we're leveraging the alternative funds to help begin construction, and the state or the DOT funds would finish it. So that's kind of one of the reasons that you can potentially see an accelerated schedule compared to a traditional non-toll delivered project. And I think just a summary slide, we've probably talked about this enough. I'll just again reiterate, the department and the Turnpike Authority do not propose toll projects in the state of North Carolina. We help support local communities who are looking at alternatives to make the best decision for the region. So we are certainly not advocating for a particular path forward. This is tolling is a tool in the toolbox that can help if the project is right. But yeah, certainly happy to continue the discussion, but that I think is the presentation.
Perfect. Sure, we'll have discussion. Or have you answered all our questions as we've gone?
Yes, a comment. Carly, David, thank you very much. I think you did a great job in doing what was asked of you to provide this information of what does that potentially look at. Improving I-40 and adding capacity is speaking for Division 14, it is a high priority for us. Even though it's a priority, and you're going to hear it every time you see one of these, we do not advocate for tolls or express lanes. But I do thank you all, planning organization and this board, for looking at that as an option, as a tool that it shows that it's a priority for you too. And I think that's good for residents. Excuse me. You scared me.
I'm sorry.
I had a couple of questions since this discussion has started, and I didn't think much about it, but I've had it multiple times, so I did feel like it was necessary to address it. This project is part of our STIP. Looked at strictly as STIP. It does not affect Helene repairs. Helene repairs are the top priority for the state of North Carolina, Division 14, all of NCDOT. So put that out there. Does not, this project or any TIP project would not affect or impact project delivery of Helene recovery. And secondly, it was mentioned, I want to stress this would only be considered in the statewide tier. Some projects can be cascaded down just to the sheer size of this and cost of this. It would be scored and awarded at the statewide tier or no tier. It would not cascade down and take the place for years of other regional and division projects. So that was all I had.
The estimated cost
It's massive. It's a $1 million project.
It's what? That's the estimated cost to widen Interstate 40 from exit 47 is $850 million.
And the premise of this would be that tolls would pay for that over a long period of time.
That's right.
Yeah.
But also make improvements to non-toll lanes as well, and safety improvements.
Well, if you're sitting in stop traffic, those factors aren't very important to you.
Well, the safety issue is always very important to me.
If you're sitting still on the freeway, you're not very you're safe.
And I did have one more. You're clogging the other arteries, and you're clogging the other arteries where people might be riding about, you know. And
dangerous through there.
Yeah, and so if you've got an artery that's clogged up, everybody's trying to avoid it, and then you get, more of that everywhere else.
And to point out from the last CMP update, a large percentage of congestion events in our region is caused by crashes and other similar events.
I did have one more. I looked it up real quick where you're talking, because I've had that same question come up about the gorge and the general reliability of it. Massive traffic number change once you get west of the 27. In 2019, pre-Helene, I just did some numbers. Pigeon River Gorge carries about 28,000 vehicles per day. In and around Canton, like Champion Drive, is approaching 60,000. So there's a massive change there. So that kind of accounts for that reliability potential, you know.
So about half the traffic.
Half the traffic. 28,000 versus 56,500.
Half the tolls comes from Tennessee users.
So I have a question.
Sign me up.
Isn't I-40 from 27 to 44 already 3 lanes?
No, three lanes going up from that, there's a truck lane, or lane, but coming down is not.
Okay, because at the last meeting, I feel like I heard that if this were to be approved by this board, that it would then go into direct competition with the I-26 that we've been talking about for 40 years. And I-26 is a 2-lane road that also comes from Madison County and the northern part of Buncombe County, where people come from that county to work in Asheville. So you already have 3 lanes, and we've had 2 lanes forever. We've been doing that, and we've been waiting for 40 years for 26 to be finished. I really hope that it's finished in my lifetime, but every time 40 goes down, people come from 26.
Yeah.
And so one of the things you were talking about with your children coming to Asheville to work, my recommendation is tell them to get up early, because the last 4 years of my career, I started getting up at 5:30 in the morning so that I could be at an 8 o'clock job because of the traffic on 26.
But it's actually being more valuable that 26 would get approved, because that is sooner, because not only does it decrease the cost, but it also gives us an extra $100 million.
Well, I thought I heard that, and then I thought Tristan said it had to stay within the zone where it was, and so I wanted to ask that question.
I mean, in terms of the statewide mobility, or the revenues from the whole facility,
That $100 million bonus that we would get for other projects.
my understanding is that would be the counties directly impacted, so it would be Haywood and Buncombe County.
But then that would free up money that we would have to ask that could go elsewhere within the MPO. And it goes back to also when 40's shut down, it pushes a lot of traffic toward 26, so it would alleviate that.
Tristan, back to an understanding of buckets. The money, the gap funding, the money to build this to start with, is that from a different bucket that would let us do projects like safety improvements on Riverside Drive?
Right.
Or is it going to take away money for those things?
So the way the funding is split up, and we'll have more follow-up on this, but it's split up based on facility type. So statewide mobility funding is in our region largely for our freeways, also Asheville Airport. But that's I-40, I-26, I-240, and US 2374 in Haywood County. So those are any projects that we have on those facilities, they compete for the statewide mobility funds. They can cascade down, but nothing from those other tiers on state routes, such as NC 251, or secondary roads, such as Elkwood Drive, those cannot compete for statewide mobility funds.
So the answer, this would come from different buckets than our local projects?
Correct.
Okay, great, thank you.
Bonus allocation, for context, you're right, it's legislatively in the counties of the project that's supporting it. It can be used for any project, any highway project, STI highway project. So typically, what we have seen is projects at the division level of projects that are funded. That's not a
Project goes over to county.
It would be split between the split. That's right.
I'm guessing it's done by the allocation of miles or however they.
I believe it is mileage, but I don't quote me on that.
Yeah, I just. Any other questions, concerns? Speak, bring that more information for next. We have to make a decision before January.
January was what the prioritization office told us was kind of our deadline for determining whether this project will be evaluated this round as a traditional line or as an express line project.
I would like to get kind of that for votes at the next meeting, and then if we have more concerns, we can kick it a little bit further. But I'd like us to get this decision at the next meeting.
I mean, to me, it seems like there's a problem. Y'all brought up the traffic, the times, the accidents, reliability. There's a problem. You can't deny that. This is maybe a solution. So, to me, it's a no-brainer. I don't know why we've been discussing this for 40 minutes or whatever. It just seems like this is an answer, possible answer to a problem that we have. And it's not going to get better by wishing and by hoping. This could possibly handle all that. And you know what? I don't like tolls. And I don't pay tolls. But I hope that all y'all do pay the tolls to get out of my lane. But that's fine. Whatever. Hopefully somebody pays the toll besides me. But it'd be better. So I think it's great.
All the questions and concerns are going to be addressed. This was not, even if we vote on it now, whenever it comes back, we're going to be talking about this for the next 5 years.
Well, I will have some data from other states that have done these projects by our next meeting. American Truckers Association just shot their PR people. You know, you have policies and procedures, you have case studies. I won't vote for this until I know that this has been a solution in other areas and not pie in the sky. You've obviously bought into this hook, line, and sinker. I want to see some data. I'm a data guy.
So you need to present the data.
13.
No, this is the study.
This is which,
But they brought up examples of, were they just made up? Or were they examples of real life? Okay.
We have them listed, a third of the states use this already.
Well, that's what I thought.
It's not a new thing. We are not recreating the wheel.
and there are some states that have decided they will never do another mile of toll road because of their experience with them. And I'll document that for you.
They probably implemented it incorrectly.
Well, like, we'll do it better?
We're doing it.
I-40 is going to continue to be landslide and flooded until we move it. That's our future. We've chosen a route that is...
He just told you that we're not talking about the gorge.
Oh, I understand.
Well, that's what we're going to vote next time, so let's move on. We're going to vote next time. That's fine. That's why we vote.
Well, we're going to need to see some data before we vote, I think.
Well, that's fine. Okay. But there's no use in talking about it anymore now.
At any time, so
we can coordinate on providing additional.
You got to remember, with all due respect, you did a great job presentation, but they're the sales guys. They want us to buy this.
They are not.
You're not advocating for any particular.
You're not advocating for this project.
Absolutely not. We are helping you make the resident decisions for your region.
I stand
In fact, many of the projects that we present on, we say a toll project probably doesn't make sense for that project. In fact, 99.9% of the projects across the state shouldn't even be considered for a toll project.
What's the number one or two reason that the no is the consideration? Help me understand that.
So obviously for a toll project, you need a congested region. Without volume, it's not going to generate enough revenue to support a potential toll project. For a express lane particularly, revenue is not the only consideration. In fact, the I-485 project is being implemented without a single dollar of debt that went towards construction. The Charlotte region made a determination a number of years ago that any new interstate capacity was going to be a managed lane or an express lane because they recognize or they believe that you can't build yourself out of congestion, and the only way to provide a reliable travel time option into the future, not just for people who are paying, but for HOV users, transit, emergency vehicles, is to provide an express lane option. And currently, the only way to accomplish that is through dynamic pricing. That's the only way you can ensure that those lanes don't break down in congested periods.
What's the risk in this alternative? There have to be some
risk in an express lane option?
This express lane option in this location.
Well, as I mentioned, certainly, the level one traffic and revenue study that we performed is a $30,000, $40,000
was used. There has not been detailed analysis of the technical features of that course.
So no SWOT analysis?
That will certainly need to be considered if this moves forward. And one of the first things that would happen if this moves forward is a level 2 traffic and revenue analysis, which includes a much more detailed study.
Okay.
Uses not
That's a critical consideration. I didn't realize that.
Right now, this was essentially a spreadsheet exercise using the existing regional demand model. If a level 2 study were conducted, they would develop their own model, certainly to your point earlier, pull in industry data, again, not necessarily in the textual study detailing all of that, but certainly in the aggregate data that is used as the basis for the study. To give you context, a typical level 1 is a 3 or 4 month, $100,000-ish effort. Obviously, this took a little longer because of Helene and other considerations. A level 2 study is a 6 to 9 month, $500,000 effort. So that kind of gives you the scope of how much they would take in.
That's very helpful study until we say that we're okay with them proceeding, right?
After that, would it come back to us or not?
So the department has previously committed that at any point an MPO or RPO could withdraw their support for a toll project. Up until,
I was going to say that. This still doesn't commit us that this is going to happen.
Yeah.
This just simply furthers the conversation.
Just to follow up on something that I said earlier, just really quick, and this isn't to take away from the vote that's coming up, but, you know, if we proceed with this concept, there will be considerably more conversation. As David pointed out, there's still a lot of work to do on technical feasibility of actually building this facility, or building any facility. It would be going over a mountain pass between Buncombe and Haywood counties. And in all likelihood, looking at the revenue forecast, you know, this is just probability-wise, but very likely the best case scenario for this project is getting into the SIP and being looked at further. And then we would have another cycle of trying to get this fully funded for implementation.
And please, my last statement, please understand, I lived for the last 35 years before coming here in 2 areas that did this, and it becomes a have and a have not. And fortunately, my employer would pay the tolls, but as I drove in the toll lane, every window had this at me from the people who couldn't afford it. The working Joes who can't afford it. The students who can't afford it. So that's my concern.
That is certainly a concern we hear across the state for every project, and we can certainly would love to continue the conversation.
I appreciate it.
I really believe that we can come to a vote at the next meeting.
I want to clarify, you got a resounding no when it was like you don't advocate for the project. Division 14 absolutely supports the adding capacity and improvement of I-40. We don't advocate that you use tolls to do that. Well, I appreciate that you're looking at it as a tool, as one of, you know, as an option. Is it going to improve it? But we're not advocating on one way or the other on how to fund that, but we do strongly support that project.
Great. But you don't support adding tolls?
We don't advocate.
And there's reasons for that, I would imagine.
As I mentioned earlier, state law requires local planning organization to approve any sort of toll projects, but we're not here to advocate, we educate. Okay. That's why we did the analysis.
I think we need to put a pin in this because we're now at 3:30.
Yes, please.
Yes, please. Second.
We will.
Thank you for the presentation, though. I did enjoy that information.
Good job.
Right. I really appreciate all of your time. I appreciate your education on this issue. I believe we will have a vote in the next meeting. Thank you. Let's go ahead to commute-friendly workplace program. Take it away, Andy.
All right. I promise I will try to be very quick. We are launching a new program here at Land to Sky called Commute Friendly WNC. It is a certification program, and just as a reminder, I am Go Mountain Commuting, which is a program of Land to Sky that is transportation demand management. And our mission is to connect people to transportation resources that reduce traffic congestion and improve air quality. and I serve all 5 of our counties. So the Commute-Friendly WNC program is a free campus and workplace certification program that encourages people to take an active role in supporting their multimodal employees and students. And it's a great way for organizations to work towards reducing transportation barriers to employment and education opportunities. There's a lot of different benefits to becoming certified. We start out with an on-site assessment and consultation so that employers know what transportation resources are available for their employees. And then becoming certified opens them up to a lot of materials that we can create for their campus or workplace that allows them to advertise to their own students or employees what transportation resources are available because a lot of people don't have staff that are dedicated to that. We can also offer Bicycle Commuting 101 as a lunch and learn, which I've already done for several organizations. It's just an hour-long program that talks about bicycle safety, infrastructure, and other things that people would want to know if they were going to start by commuting. As Kim mentioned earlier, we also do bus ride-alongs, which we've done with the Gibbons-Gerber community as a partnership with AARP. I just did one earlier this week with UNCA students where we took them on the local buses to the Well Place Working Cafe. So we try to make it fun and engaging for people to learn how to use transit. We can also do campus or workplace commuter challenges, which is a team building effort to try and get people to use like carpooling, transit, biking, walking, that sort of thing, depending on what works for the workplace. And we can come speak at any event or table or present to basically any organization that requests it. So we've presented at sustainability fairs, employee orientations, all sorts of things to talk to people about what transportation options are available to them. And then, of course, if they certify, we will promote them as a great place to work, a great place to learn as often as we can. And as a part of that, we just launched this program 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, I think. And already we've had 3 organizations apply, which are Sierra Nevada, New Belgium, and Highwire. I promise this is not just a brewery program, but I'm very excited to start promoting them already as a commute-friendly organization. We also have quarterly learning sessions and networking sessions for organizations that are a part of this so that they can share ideas and do site visits and collaborate with other people who are trying to support multimodal users in our region. I also offer personalized trip planning assistance for employees or students of these certified organizations. So if someone wants to figure out the best bus route or the best bike route or who they can carpool match with to get from their home to work or their home to school, I'm happy to do that. I also offer grant writing assistance for certified organizations if we hear about any multimodal amenity grants that are available that are obviously blast out to all of our certified organizations and offer to help them with those grants. Organizations can be certified at bronze, silver, or gold depending on the number of points they earn through the application based on their amenities offered. And the requirements are basically that you must be have a physical location in the 5 counties. You must earn enough points through the application process and then participate in the on-site consultation and survey. And for organizations that apply but don't quite meet the requirements for bronze, they'll still get access to all of the program benefits. The points that they earn through the application process are based on basically how easy is it to try to use multimodal transportation to reach the site, and also what is the organization doing to promote those modes of transportation. The application is live on our website now. If the application is intimidating or confusing, I'm happy to have a call with the organization and fill out the application together over the phone. And we're having our first info and networking session for interested organizations on Monday, November 3rd, from 12:30 to 2 p.m. in this room. And so if you're interested, please register and we will provide lunch. So make sure you register so I have enough lunch for everyone. And that is it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Thank you, phenomenal job. And I only heard good things about you. So thank you. Do we have any questions for Sandy? So, moving to North Carolina Division 13 updates.
I'll make it quick.
Thank you. Read this president.
Yeah, so, the construction progress spreadsheet is what you see on your screen. Just a few things we want to point out. One is on I-4700, the Blue Ridge Parkway Bridge. The new bridge is now open. Demolition of the existing bridge has started. I believe there was a press release sent out about 9 closures with detours while the contractor brings down the old Blue Ridge Parkway Bridge. So that'll be happening at 9 on I-26. Another project today. Advance notice of those that I get, it's really helpful. We send those out in our email blast to residents, and I get thank yous all the time. We appreciate that.
Appreciate that. Do a good job of communicating.
Well, thank you. I-2513, it is currently in phase 2 of construction, widening, and rehabilitation of the outside travel lanes of I-40. Lane reductions are in place in both directions. Substructure work for the new bridge over the railroad is ongoing. One other that we want to make mention of is Haywood Road, project HL0003. The contractors communicated their plans to commence construction at a date later than first proposed. This will allow them to schedule and execute construction in a more continuous way that will decrease the time frame motorists and pedestrians will be impacted, while still working towards completing the project by the completion date. So those are kind of the updates in the area. One that I do want to mention that does technically fall outside the geographical area, but is impactful to the French Broad MPO. We, in Division 13, just completed the first bridge from Helene, the final complete construction, and that's near the Baxter Healthcare Facility, which produces about 70% of the IV solutions for North America, so it affects all of us. So that's a good milestone with many more bridges to come.
Perfect. Thank you. Speaking of bridges, Division 14.
All right, so really quick, and a reminder, you can look at these updates on the French FBRMPO website. It's on the agenda and minutes page. Same construction projects you've been seeing for a while, but if Haywood County folks aren't sick of bridge construction yet, there are 2 new projects on here. I think it's like the 5th one down, Coal Creek Road, Ball Creek Road, and Evans Cove Road. Those bridges have left, and then another one on Coleman Mountain Road. And the only thing for Henderson County folks, the Acoustic Trail, you'll see that revised completion date has passed. As you know, Hurricane Helene affected that project, and I'll get you an updated date as soon as we have one. Project development side of things, same projects you've been seeing for a while. Take a look at them on French Broad River's website, and let me know if you have any questions.
Any questions for?
How was that for quick?
Yeah.
Good.
All right. Perfect. Moving, Daniel with Transportation Planning Branch.
Okay, I'll keep myself to just one update. But the North Carolina Department of Transportation is hosting a workshop for local and regional agencies focused on developing and implementing roadway safety solutions on November 13th in Asheville. The intent is to bring together people from across disciplines who are thinking about developing or having developed action plans focused on improving safety in their area and to start conversations on how to improve safety. The workshop will include planetary sessions, roundtable discussions, and peer exchange sessions. You do have to register beforehand, and that is being hosted by Brian Murphy and his team. And if that has not made the circulation, I can get this to Tristan to be emailed out.
Thanks, Daniel. We did send out an email blast, I believe, a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. Thank you, Daniel. Next, subcommittee and legislative update.
I will be extra quick. You can read subcommittee updates on your own. But legislation, really quick. The big thing is, shouldn't be breaking news, is federal shutdown. And just to note, in terms of transportation, FHWA and FTA, we've been told are expected to continue as normal. With their appropriations coming separately, they do have several months of cash on hand to continue their operations. But to note, normal is different than it was previously. FHWA staff is down 25% since January. I've been told North Carolina is more than 25%. FDA staff is down 28%. But to note, FRA and FAA are some of the agencies impacted by the shutdown. Also, surface transportation reauthorization, i.e. a new transportation bill, is being drafted in Congress. The draft is expected in late 2025 or early 26. We have confirmed AMPO to present at our meeting in November. They've been doing a lot of coordination at the federal level to stay up to date on what's being looked at and considered as part of that new transportation bill. Also, FY26 appropriations, we touched on this last time. The House provided a bill with $1.7 billion in cuts to public transit, $2.6 billion in cuts to passenger rail. The Senate appropriations had a modest increase in public transit funds and leaving passenger rail funding. So all in all, more to come. And North Carolina updates, just a reminder, the payback did pass and become law. That's just to note that it does authorize Mecklenburg County to pursue a referendum for a 1-cent sales tax to be used for transportation projects. And state budget, no budget, but continuing operations were passed. Finally, you all should have got the blast on the pedestrian safety call for projects. Not to keep going on this topic, but this is a unique opportunity in that there is 0% match required for projects through this. The reason there is a 0% match, unlike any other pedestrian project in North Carolina, is due to toll credits. And those are essentially a financial tool where the maintenance that is paid for on interstate facilities through toll revenues, rather than having to use federal revenues, the federal government provides toll revenues, which basically lets you use federal funds with 0% match. So to note, this call for projects is only for areas in what's called small urban, which is not the Asheville urban area, which is shown in red, and rural parts of North Carolina. The reason is there are federal funds that are required to go to those areas. There's a large balance. They need to spend down that balance. And this is one of the ways they're looking at doing so. So if you haven't looked at it, and if there's any points of interest you all would like to discuss, please feel free to reach out. And that is all we've got for today. Just a reminder, our next meeting is November 20th, and it'll be a joint meeting with the TCC. And we know what is topics for the next meeting. Do we have any additional public comment? Hearing none, I will adjourn. Thank you.